When I was back in school, I had professors who used to say, if you want to understand poetry, or if you want to understand a great novel, or if you want to understand a great movie or enjoy it, what you have to do is practice what he called willingly suspending your disbelief. So that when you go into a movie theater, for example, you will see a two-dimensional screen. And you don't walk in and say, well, that's just a two-dimensional screen with a lot of images that are being projected from the rear of the room from a projector, and I'm not going to allow my emotions to be impacted or affected by a silly little thing like a projector. If you did that, you would not be able to enjoy the movie. What you do is you willingly suspend your disbelief. You just let go of any of your doubts, and you just allow yourself to be entertained for a couple of hours. And I suggest that you take what I'm speaking about here this evening. Some of it will conflict with some of the things that you have been conditioned to believe in, some of the things that you may hold very dear to your heart. And I'm not here to challenge them. I'm not here to get you to change your point of view. I'm not here to get you to join some organization that I think will get you to be more enlightened. I'm just offering you what comes from my heart, principles that are involved in being able to reach higher and higher and higher levels of awareness, so that things like miracles and being able to attract into your life what has been missing up until now, the ability to heal yourself of perhaps diseases or processes of difficulty that you've never been able to handle before, the capacity to be able to create the kind of relationship that you would like to have, the ability to even get a job that perhaps you haven't been able to get, or to raise your level of prosperity, whatever it might be, to sell your home if you've been having difficulty doing that. And I would like to suggest that you suspend your disbelief, allow yourself to know that you're not a human being here having a spiritual experience, but that it's the other way around, that you're a spiritual being having a human experience. There are many ways to get the things that we want for ourselves in our lives, but basically it all begins with how we choose to think. Once you start becoming aware of the power of thought, and if you look around, just look around you at everything that you see, it all began with a thought. We become what we think about. I was handed a book a few years ago, 2 years ago, at a conference that where I was speaking in Las Vegas, and it showed, now this is where you have to again willingly suspend your disbelief, it showed how water would crystallize. And they would take a drop of water, or a little vial of water, and they would freeze it at a cryogenic level, 273 degrees below zero, at absolute zero. They would freeze it, and they would include in the vial that was being frozen with the water just the words love, typed on a piece of paper, and just the word hatred, typed on a piece of paper. And you would think, well, it's typing. It's just words typed on a piece of paper. They would make statements. They would take statements out of the Bhagavad Gita and out of the New Testament and so on. And they showed the crystalline formations that were photographed through microscopes. And when water is crystallized in the same energy field as the word hatred on a piece of paper, their crystalline formations are deformed and distorted. And when water is crystallized with the word love in the same energy field, the crystalline formations, they show the photographs, are these beautiful, perfect, magnificent, divine, like water crystallizations. That everything in the universe is energy and is impacted by the speed at which we calibrate. And all of us can raise the level at which we vibrate in our lives. All of us can do it, simply by changing our thoughts, by practicing meditation, by listening to different kind of music, by being in energy fields where we have a knowing, where we reconnect to God, where we make conscious contact with our source. We can change the energy level at which we are living. You were not born to race the clock. You were not born to chase the minutes like loose marbles scattering across a tile floor. You were born timeless, infinite, spacious, a breath of God inhabiting the temporary shell of flesh and bone, not to be measured by hours past, but by the light you emit while here. Time, as you have come to know it, is not your master, it is your mirror. And you, beloved, are not behind. You are simply being invited to expand within the sacred space of now. The panic you feel around time is not because time is cruel. It's because the ego believes your worth is tied to productivity, to calendars and clocks and external achievements. But your spirit knows better. Your soul is not in a rush. It is eternal. It is patient. It is not counting days, it is breathing presence into them. What if your purpose was not to keep up, but to slow down until you become one with the rhythm that has always been here, beneath the noise? Time is not something you have, it is something you are in relationship with. It stretches when you are present. It contracts when you resist. It disappears altogether when you are in flow. And it traps you in anxiety when you believe you must catch up with something outside yourself. But there is nothing to catch. The finish line is not in the future, it is in your stillness. The trees are not in a hurry, yet they grow. The sun is not anxious, yet it rises. The moon doesn't beg for your permission to shine light, simply is. Why then, dear soul, do you rush through your own becoming? Who convinced you that your sacred unfolding had to be done on a timeline someone else invented? The divine is not on a schedule. Your awakening has no due date. You see, the illusion of running out of time is not a crisis of time itself, it is a crisis of identity. The part of you that fears not enough time is the same part of you that believes it must earn its place here. That is the voice of the ego. The ego will tell you, do more, be more, achieve more, then you'll be safe. But the soul whispers, you already are. Be still and know. When you are truly present, when you drop beneath the mind's fixation on past and future, you enter the timeless field of being. This is where healing happens. This is where peace lives. This is where you remember that nothing real can be rushed and nothing true can be missed. In that holy space, you no longer chase time. You become a vessel for eternity. Pause with me now, not to analyze, but to feel. Feel the breath in your body. It is not yesterday's breath, it is not tomorrow's, it is this owner right now. This breath is your teacher. It says, everything is happening here, everything is born now, nothing is out of reach when you are rooted in this sacred inhale. You do not need to earn stillness, it is your home. You were not sent here to keep pace with a society that has forgotten how to be. You were not created to perform urgency like a ritual of self-worth. The race is not real. The timeline is not divine. It is man-made. What is real is your awareness. What is holy is your presence. What is miraculous is the love you allow to flow through you when you no longer resist the moment you're in. And I say to you now, from the deepest well of truth, peace is not found in managing time. It is found in surrendering to being. When you stop trying to bend time to your will and instead open to its flow, you become aligned with the infinite intelligence that knows what you truly need and when you need it. Your life starts to feel guided, not pressured, orchestrated, not forced. So many people ask, how do I find more time? But this is the wrong question. The real question is, how do I return to the eternal now where time loses its grip and I find my soul again? The answer is always presence. The answer is always inner spaciousness. You do not need more hours, you need fewer distractions. You do not need to speed up, you need to return inward. There is a spiritual physics to life. When you become still inside, the external world aligns itself around your clarity. Not because you have control, but because you are now cooperating with divine timing. The more you trust the unfolding, the more you see that every delay had a purpose. Every pause had a gift, and every moment was never wasted, it was forming you. You may think your future lives in the next 5 years, but the truth is, your future is being formed in how you show up right now. Do you rush past the moment, or do you live in it fully? Do you squeeze time, or do you soften into it? When you expand within time, your energy shifts from force to faith. And that shift is everything. Because when you live from the soul, you are no longer governed by fear's clock. You become timeless when you release resistance. You become powerful when you stop performing urgency. You become divine when you stop fighting the moment you're in and allow it to be what it is, without judgment, without panic, without shame. The sacred is always still. The holy is always now. And here's a truth worth remembering every day. You do not run out of time when you live aligned with the source, because source is eternal. And you, beloved, are an extension of that source. How can you be late to your own life when life itself lives through you? When you are truly aligned with the divine rhythm of life, you will notice something miraculous. The moment begins to slow down for you, not because the clock has changed, but because your consciousness has. The more inwardly spacious you become, the more expansive the world around you begins to feel. Opportunities that once slipped by unnoticed begin to reveal themselves. Silence becomes meaningful. A conversation becomes sacred. A walk becomes a communion. This is the reward of presence. It awakens you to what has always been here. You are not waiting for life to begin. Life is waiting for you to arrive. And arriving does not mean doing more, rushing more, checking more boxes. It means becoming awake to this very breath, this very feeling, this very now. There is no magic in the future if you're asleep in the present. The ego will always convince you that fulfillment is one step ahead, one goal away, one promotion, one relationship, one achievement down the line. But the soul smiles and says, I am already here. Be with me now. We live in a culture addicted to urgency. Urgency has become a false badge of importance. But urgency is not presence, it is the child of fear. Urgency says, I am not enough unless I prove my worth through speed. But presence says, I am already enough. And from this stillness, miracles unfold. The deepest transformation you can experience in this lifetime is not rearranging your schedule, it is realigning your relationship to time itself. Because time isn't chasing you, it is offering itself to you. It is a silent invitation to return to what is real. But most people don't hear this invitation. They are running, trying to outrun the voice in their head that says they'll never be enough. But there is no finish line to self-worth. You are worthy now. You are already whole now. No achievement, no title, no external validation can complete what the divine already calls perfect. Let this truth move through you. The present moment is not a stepping stone, it is the entire path. When you expand within this moment, you stop grasping and start allowing. You stop begging life to hurry, and you begin to trust that everything you need is arriving right on time. Your healing, your awakening, your purpose, your next step. They are not on some distant horizon, they are embedded in the present, right here, in this breath, in this stillness. You've been taught that stillness is laziness, that not moving is failure, that rest is weakness. But the truth is, stillness is spiritual strength. It takes power to pause. It takes deep faith to listen before you act. It takes courage to trust that life is unfolding perfectly, even when you don't see the outcome yet. That's the difference between living by ego and living by spirit. Ego demands a result. Spirit embraces the process. You were never meant to conquer time. You were meant to harmonize with it. And the only way to harmonize with time is to live from your soul. Because your soul is not counting the minutes, it is counting the moments of truth, the moments of love, the moments of surrender. And the soul doesn't measure success in speed, it measures success in alignment. Slow down, not because you're giving up, but because you're finally waking up. waking up to the miracle of a heartbeat, waking up to the beauty of your breath, waking up to the divine whisper that says, you are not running out of time. You are simply being called to return home, to yourself, to your center, to the eternal now. When you live from the ego, every moment feels like a race. When you live from the soul, every moment feels like grace. The difference is not in what you do, it's in how you be. Can you allow yourself to be rooted, not rushed? Can you trust that your becoming is not on a timer, but on a divine timeline? The soul does not bloom on demand. The soul blooms in divine timing. And divine timing is never late, never early, only perfect. But to see its perfection, you must stop looking at life through the lens of control and begin to see it through the lens of surrender. You don't need more time to feel whole. You need less resistance to the time you already have. You don't need to fix your schedule, you need to expand within it. You don't need to stretch the hours, you need to soften into your presence. Let go of the belief that you are behind. Let go of the belief that you must prove your worth through productivity. Let go of the anxiety that tells you life is slipping away. Life is not slipping, it is inviting. The moment is not passing you by, it is waiting for you to notice it. And when you do, when you finally see the now for what it is, a living, breathing sanctuary of divine awareness, you will understand that you never needed more hours. You only needed more presence. You only needed to stop chasing time and start expanding within it. There was a deeper part of you that already lives in harmony with time. It's the part of you that loses track of hours when you're doing what you love. It's the part that feels one breath stretch into eternity when you're holding a loved one, watching the stars, or hearing music that moves your soul. In those moments, you are no longer the chaser, you are the channel. You are no longer the one fearing time, you are the one dissolving into its sacred rhythm. This is what happens when you remember who you are. Not a creature of habit, but a current of heaven. Not a machine designed to produce, but a miracle designed to awaken. And to awaken, you must stop measuring your value by the world's frantic standards. You must reclaim your sacred right to rest, to be, to breathe, without guilt, without apology, without the illusion that stillness equals failure. You are not here to meet every deadline. You are here to meet your destiny. And destiny is not found in rushing. Destiny is revealed in receptivity. It speaks in the soft moments, in the subtle nudges, in the divine delays. But if you're always in a hurry, you'll miss the whispers that were meant to guide you. You'll miss the doorway disguised as a pause. You'll miss the miracle unfolding in what you thought was wasted time. How often have you condemned yourself for not being far enough? How often have you swallowed the shame of not yet, not knowing that the universe was rearranging the stars for your arrival? How often have you measured your life by artificial milestones, only to realize that none of them brought the peace you craved? Peace was never the reward. Peace was the path. But the path is invisible when you are sprinting through it. Slow down. Not because you're falling behind, but because you're finally waking up to the truth. Presence is the gateway to power. Awareness is the home of miracles. And when you are fully here, fully now, fully you, everything aligns, not because you forced it, but because you flowed with it. Because you trusted that the universe was never against you. It was waiting for you to stop running. There are no late bloomers in the garden of the soul. There are only divine unfoldings. And your blooming is beautiful, not in spite of its timing, but because of it. Some souls need more winners before they rise. Some truths need more silence before they surface. Some hearts need more breaking before they become open enough to hold the light. What if the delays in your life weren't punishments but preparations? What if what looked like detours were actually initiations? What if time wasn't the enemy but the womb from which your higher self would be born? You can't rush birth. You can't rush the cracking of the shell. and you cannot force the soul into awakening. You can only allow it. And that's the key. Allowing, not controlling, not pushing, not demanding. Allowing, expanding, opening, trusting. This is the soul's relationship to time. Not a tug of war, but a dance. A surrender to the divine tempo that already knows the steps. When you stop rushing through life, you begin to see what you've been missing. You see the way the sunlight kisses the leaves. You hear the sound of your own intuition, faint but clear. You notice the sacred details, the look in a stranger's eye, the breath between words, the silence beneath noise. Life stops being something you run through and becomes something you are in communion with. And here's the sacred paradox. The more present you are, the more time seems to expand. You get more done with less stress. You make better decisions. You attract more synchronicity because your energy is clean, uncluttered, unclenched. You are no longer reacting to life. You are responding from truth. You are no longer racing the clock. You are dancing with eternity. You cannot heal while you are in a rush. You cannot receive when you are in survival mode. You cannot hear the divine when your mind is yelling over the still, small voice. To expand within time means to create space. Space in your thoughts, space in your emotions, space in your schedule, not as an escape, but as a sacred act of remembrance. Remember this, you are not behind. You are on time for your own life. The moment you arrive fully into the now, you are exactly where you are meant to be. No sooner, no later, no more, no less. So be here, breathe here, trust here. This is your portal. This is your healing. This is your miracle. The world will tell you to move faster, but your soul will ask you to move truer. One is noise, the other is wisdom. One exhausts, the other expands. And this is where your freedom begins, not by matching the world's speed, but by matching the universe's rhythm. It takes deep courage to slow down when everything around you says rush. It takes spiritual maturity to rest when the world rewards exhaustion. But until you stop equating your value with your velocity, you will remain trapped in the illusion that your worth is somewhere you have to arrive. It's not. It's here. Now. Always, when you stop chasing time, you begin to reclaim your life. Not just in hours and days, but in meaning, in presence, in sacred attention. Your relationships deepen. Your inner voice sharpens. Your nervous system softens. And life, once blurry from the race, becomes vivid again. You taste your food. You feel your emotions. You hear the wind speaking through the trees. You come alive not because you did more, but because you finally did less with more love. And isn't that the point of time? Not to control it, not to dominate it, but to fill it with depth, with love, with beauty that cannot be measured but only felt. The ego says, make every second count. The soul says, make every second sacred. There is a difference. One is pressure, the other is presence. So much of our anxiety comes from imagining we've fallen behind on a timeline no one truly understands. We compare, we panic, we rush. But have you ever asked, who created this race? Who decided what on time means? Who said you were too late for anything meant for your soul? The divine never rushes. It waits with infinite compassion for your readiness. You don't need to arrive quickly, you need to arrive wholly. And the only way to do that is to stop rushing your becoming. You are not an assembly line. You are a constellation being lit one star at a time. Let life pace you, not pressure you. Let love pull you, not force drive you. Let grace teach you that sometimes the deepest growth comes in the quietest season. The most powerful revelations happen not in the peak, but in the pause. The pause is sacred. The pause is where the divine whispers. And if you're in that pause right now, if things feel slow, still, or uncertain, know that you are not stuck. You are gestating. You are aligning. You are being tuned to a higher frequency. You are being invited to inhabit your life with more truth, more courage, more soul. In stillness, you will remember what matters. You will remember what no clock can ever measure the depth of your being. You are not here to do time. You are here to embody eternity. You are not here to chase the clock. You are here to awaken beyond it. Let every inhale be a return. Let every exhale be a release. You don't need to rush into the future to find yourself. You need to root into the now and let yourself expand, not with urgency, but with reverence. And that expansion doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like rest. Sometimes it looks like grief or patience or surrender. These are not delays. These are doorways. This is time becoming sacred again. Time is not your enemy. It is your ally when you stop fighting it. It is your teacher when you listen. It is your canvas when you become the artist of your life. You can't control how long anything lasts, but you can choose how deeply you live while it's here. You can choose to make a moment eternal by how open your heart is in it. You can choose to make peace the foundation of your hours. You can choose to move through time, not as a victim of its ticking, but as a creator of its meaning. You can choose to stop performing urgency and start living intimacy with this breath, with this step, with this moment, because the greatest miracle is not waiting in the future. It is waiting in the full embrace of now. You are not meant to be a servant of the ticking hand. You were not sent here to measure your life in deadlines, alarms, and schedules, but in awareness, presence, and the sacred art of noticing. Noticing the way the moment holds you when you stop resisting it. Noticing how peace begins to rise when you stop filling every corner of your day with noise. Noticing that what you were chasing was never time, it was you. You were looking for yourself in the future, not realizing you've been quietly waiting in the stillness all along. When you slow down, you don't lose time. You meet your life. You meet your wounds. You meet your truth. And you give yourself permission to feel, not as a distraction from progress, but as the very path to wholeness. To feel is not to fall behind. To feel is to return to what is real. The present moment is always real. The future is theory. The past is memory. But now is alive. It is breathing, it is sacred, and it is where God lives. And what is God if not the breath beneath the breath, the stillness behind every heartbeat, the intelligence flowing through the silence you keep avoiding? The divine does not shout, it waits. It whispers, and only the present is quiet enough to hear. There is no greater rebellion in the world that glorifies hustle than to become still and full of joy for no reason. Not because you achieved something, not because you crossed a finish line, but because you remembered you are enough without the chase. You are light without the rush. You are whole even when you are still. Time will pass no matter what. But you get to choose whether you pass through time numb or awake, whether you race toward an imagined destination, or expand into the richness of every unfolding moment. And the irony is, the more present you become, the more time begins to stretch for you. It opens, it bends, it yields, not to your control, but to your consciousness. Presence is the doorway through which the miraculous enters. And the miracle is not out there in some distant future where you finally made it. The miracle is this moment where nothing is missing and you are not late. How could you be late when the soul is timeless? How could you be behind when the divine has no stopwatch? The belief that you must hurry to catch up is rooted in forgetting who you are. You are not the body that ages. You are not the calendar you mark. You are not the plans you postponed. You are the awareness, witnessing it all. You are the eternal, watching the temporary. You are the sky, not the storm. And the sky does not chase time. It holds it, it observes, it expands. And in this expansion, healing begins. Not by speeding up, but by slowing into yourself, slowing into your heart, slowing into your breath,
slowing into the sacred truth that nothing essential can be missed. Your soul will not let you miss what was written for you. What's meant for you will not require self-betrayal to receive. It will not require burnout. It will not ask you to sacrifice presence in exchange for proximity. There is a divine choreography at work, and sometimes the most aligned step is stillness. Sometimes the most courageous act is not pushing harder but listening deeper. Sometimes the next step is not forward but inward, and inward is where time slows. Inward is where eternity begins. Inward is where the real you lives untouched by the ticking of clocks, unbothered by the world's obsession with urgency. You cannot find the soul in a rush. You cannot feel love when you are only moving. You cannot receive the universe when your arms are always reaching but never resting. Expansion doesn't come through force. It comes through surrender. It comes through trust. Trust that you are where you need to be. Trust that nothing essential can pass you by. Trust that your presence is more powerful than your performance. Trust that time is not your master, but your mirror, reflecting how deeply you allow yourself to be. And so I say, with the fullness of divine remembrance behind these words, stop running. Stop trying to beat the clock. Stop measuring your life in hours, and start measuring it in awareness, in awe, in aliveness. Expand within the now, because this breath, this moment, this sacred stillness is where your life truly lives. The clock has no dominion over the eternal. It only governs what is temporary, what is surface. But you are not surface. You are not fleeting. You are not a race to be won. You are the sky above all rushing. You are the silence underneath all sound. You are the consciousness beneath the calendar. You are the breath before the name. The fear of running out of time vanishes when you realize you are the timeless. When you step into this moment fully, without resistance, without judgment, without grasping, time no longer moves against you. It moves with you. It begins to cooperate with your peace. It honors your trust. It blesses your stillness. It no longer demands of you. It delivers to you. Because when you are no longer striving to get somewhere, you are finally open to receive what has always been here. This moment is not in your way. It is the way. Every second you resist this moment, you delay the miracle. Every second you open to it, you allow the divine choreography to unfold. This is what expanding within time means, not just slowing your pace, but softening your grip. Releasing the narrative, releasing the guilt, releasing the lie that says you must chase something to be whole. You don't need more time to prove yourself. You don't need more time to become something else. You need only this moment, entered fully, breathed consciously, received humbly. And from here, everything changes. Not because the world suddenly gives you more time, but because you finally become timeless in your way of being. You start showing up with your heart instead of your clock. You begin to speak from your soul instead of your schedule. You begin to live as if every moment is sacred, because it is. And then you start to notice the right people come, the right answers arrive, the tension begins to melt, the anxiety begins to fade, not because life became easier, but because you became present. You stopped performing, you started living, and your life responded accordingly. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not failing. You are arriving now. And if no one ever told you this before, let me tell you now, with the authority of every awakened heart that has ever remembered the truth, you are doing just fine. You are unfolding in perfect timing. You are learning what needs to be learned. You are shedding what must be released. You are blossoming, not despite your delays, but because of them. You are not separate from time. You are the pulse within it, the soul that gives it meaning, the consciousness that can turn any moment, even this one, into a gateway to the infinite. So breathe now. Be still now. Smile now, not because everything is fixed, but because you are finally home in yourself. Let the river of urgency dry up. Let the voice of the world fall silent. Let the whisper of your soul rise like a breeze through the leaves, soft, strong, undeniable. You are not here to waste time. You are here to remember the eternal presence that was never absent. You are here to reclaim the sacred rhythm that the world forgot. You are here to stop chasing and start expanding within the only place life has ever truly existed. Now, and now again, and now again, because every now is a miracle, and you are not missing a thing. This is your life. This is your time, and it is holy. Let it be enough. Let it be yours. Let it be. You were not placed here to rehearse a life that does not belong to you. You were not born to tiptoe around the opinions of others like a ghost in your own story, asking the world for permission to be what your soul already knows it is. There comes a moment not just in a lifetime, but in a breath where you are called to decide not what you do, but who you are, not who you were told to be, not who you were raised to perform as, but who you truly are beneath the roles, the wounds, the projections, and the applause. Decide who you are, not with your mind, but with your being. Decide it in the silence. Decide it in the ache of discontent. Decide it when the noise of the world grows loud and you can't hear yourself think. Because that's when the voice of your spirit finally whispers loud enough for you to feel it not with your ears, but with your knowing. And once you do, live like it. Live like your soul is not on trial. Live like you are the author, not the echo. Live like you are what you came here to remember, not what the world tried to make you forget. The moment you decide who you are, the world begins to rearrange, because it changes, but because you do. You no longer bend to fit the mold, you melt it. There is no outside permission slip required for you to become yourself. The only permission is the sacred yes you give yourself in the stillness, the yes that feels like coming home. The yes that says, I remember now, I am not this fear, I am not this shame, I am not this endless loop of proving, I am not the mask I wear to survive. I am the presence beneath it all. You see, the moment you decide who you are, life stops happening to you and starts responding through you. The energy of creation flows where alignment is present, and alignment is born the moment your inner truth and outer choices begin to mirror one another like a lake finally still enough to reflect the sky. So I ask you, not gently but lovingly, what are you waiting for? Another sign? Another wound? Another approval from someone who doesn't even know their own worth? Decide. Decide that you are not here to perform, you are here to embody. Decide that you don't need to beg for crumbs of validation when your soul is already seated at the table of the divine. Decide that you are not the echo of your trauma, but the voice that rises from its ashes. And then live like it. Live like joy is your natural state and not a reward you earn through suffering. Live like peace is not a luxury, but your birthright. Live like you have nothing left to prove, because who you are is not up for negotiation. You see, there is a certain grace that enters the life of someone who has decided. They don't chase, they don't compete. They don't explain their path to those who've never dared to walk their own. They walk with clarity, they walk with peace. They walk with God, not in some distant temple, but in the steady beat of their awakened heart. And maybe that's what you forgot, that the divine does not ask you to earn your worthiness. It simply asks you to remember it. You don't need to perform your way into being enough. You only need to stop pretending that you're not. Because when you know who you are, you stop shrinking for comfort and start expanding for truth. And let me tell you something powerful. When you decide who you are, everything you thought you needed starts to shift. You no longer seek love from those who cannot give it. You no longer wear masks in rooms that drain your spirit. You no longer agree to play roles that betray your essence. You begin to live in harmony with your own frequency, and that, my friend, is where the miracle begins. Because the universe does not respond to who you wish you were. It responds to who you are. And who you are, at your core, is not wounded. It is not small. It is not broken. Who you are is consciousness wrapped in form. You are an idea in the mind of God made flesh. You are light in motion. You are not becoming enough. You are unveiling it. So why then do you doubt? Why do you still hand the pen of your life over to voices that do not know the plot? Why do you allow fear to write your script in invisible ink, so that when you look back, you can't even find the pages you lived through? Take the pen back. Write boldly. Write truthfully. Write with the ink of your own soul. Because there is something sacred about a person who has decided to live in truth. They no longer hustle to be seen, they radiate. They no longer conform, they align. They no longer shrink, they expand. And when they speak, it is not for applause. It is for clarity. It is for resonance. It is because their soul can no longer bear the weight of pretending. That is the call for you now. Decide who you are, not based on what happened to you, but based on what was always true before the world touched you, before the world labeled you, before the world confused you. Because underneath all of that, there is still a river that knows its way back to the ocean. There is still a flame that remembers how to burn. There is still a child in you that never forgot how to believe in magic. That child was never wrong. The world was. You were not wrong to want to dance in your own rhythm. You were not wrong to question the cages they called comfort. You were not wrong to feel that there was something deeper calling you from within the stillness. That voice, that whisper, that ache, that was truth. Now live like it. Live like every breath is a vote for freedom. Live like your yes is sacred and your no is holy. Live like your time is not something to trade for acceptance, but to devote to your becoming. Because when you live from the place of inner decision, you stop reacting and start creating. You stop fearing death and start honoring life. And when people ask, who do you think you are? You will answer, not with defensiveness, but with peace. I am what I decided. I am what I remembered. I am what I've always been, even when I forgot. And I live like it. The moment you decide who you are, you enter a sacred contract, not with the world, but with your soul. And this contract is not written on paper. It is not notarized by society or signed with ink. It is carved into your being like the sunrise carving light into a sleeping sky. It is felt in the marrow of your bones when you finally stop trying to outrun yourself. You don't just decide with your thoughts. You decide with your energy. You decide with the way you breathe when you no longer hold yourself hostage to the expectations of others. You decide with the way you walk away from what once kept you small, and you do not explain why you are not returning. This decision, this sacred inner declaration, doesn't require a celebration. It requires congruence. It calls you to align the way you speak with the way your spirit whispers. It asks that your actions stop apologizing for your essence. And it demands that you stop postponing your joy for some mythical moment when all the pieces fall into place. Because the only piece that was ever missing was you. The real you, the undiluted you, the radiant, whole, soul-infused you that didn't need to become anything to be worthy of everything. You see, we live in a world that sells us mirrors made of lies. It tells us we must earn love, that we must compete to matter, that we must be someone else to be acceptable. But your soul has never bought into that currency. Your soul speaks in a different language. It doesn't shout, it doesn't bargain, it doesn't manipulate, it waits, it watches. And when you finally sit still long enough to listen not with your ears, but with your being, it says, welcome back, I've been here the whole time. That voice within you is not a stranger. It is the truest friend you've ever had. It's the one who doesn't care about your resume, your likes, your accolades, or your failures. It only asks one thing. Will you be loyal to me now? Will you finally be loyal to your essence, even if it makes you misunderstood? Will you be loyal to your peace, even if it makes you walk alone for a while? Will you be loyal to your light, even if the world prefers your shadow? Because when you decide who you are and I mean truly decide, you will lose many things. You will lose the need to be liked. You will lose the craving for external validation. You will lose the habit of shrinking when you feel too powerful. But you will gain something that can never be taken. The unshakable, unbreakable, unmovable knowing that you are living your life, not someone else's version of it. And from that knowing, freedom blooms. A freedom that is not dependent on circumstances, a freedom that is not a result of control, but a surrender to truth. And in that surrender, you don't become passive, you become powerful. Because you are no longer chasing life, you are creating it. Not from desperation, but from clarity. Not from fear, but from purpose. Not from pain, but from presence. This is not a performance. This is a homecoming. And when you come home to yourself, everything that is not yours begins to fall away. The roles, the stories, the personas, the defenses, all of it begins to dissolve like mist under morning light. And in its place rises something ancient, something real, something infinite. You, the you that never needed fixing, the you that was never truly broken, only buried. You were never here to impress. You were here to express. You were never here to hustle your way into worthiness. You were here to embody the worth that was already breathed into you. And that embodiment begins when you stop waiting and start living like the decision has already been made. So decide again, not tomorrow, not when you're ready, now. Decide that you are not a problem to be solved, but a soul to be honored. Decide that your dreams are not optional. They are sacred assignments written into your very DNA. Decide that your presence is not an accident. It is a deliberate act of creation by a source that knows no error. And once you decide, the next step is clear. Live like it. Live like you have remembered something eternal. Live like you have nothing left to hide, only more light to reveal. Live like your breath is a prayer and your walk is a sermon. Live like your yes shapes worlds and your no creates space for miracles. Because it does. And when you live like that, the world begins to shift. Not because the world is different, but because you are. You begin to magnetize everything that resonates with your frequency. You begin to release everything that doesn't, and you stop fearing loss. Because you understand now, what is real cannot be taken, and what is taken was never real. You don't chase, you attract. You don't force, you flow. You don't demand, you declare, because you have already decided, and your decision is now the blueprint of your reality. Even the cells in your body begin to realign when you live in truth. Even your heartbeat becomes a song of remembrance. And in that rhythm, you walk not as a seeker, but as one who is already found. So, if you've forgotten who you are, this is your remembering. If you've abandoned your truth for safety, this is your return. If you've dimmed your light to belong, this is your rising. You were never meant to be small enough to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. You were never meant to live a life so quiet that your soul fell asleep in it. You were meant to decide to live awake, to walk boldly into the life that only you can live. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not lacking. You are simply being called right now to remember what you once decided before the world taught you to forget. So remember and live like it. And as we continue down this sacred path of inner declaration, let it be known, the soul does not whisper lightly. When the soul speaks, it is not with urgency, but with eternity. It has waited lifetimes for you to hear. It has waited through your betrayals of self, through your temporary amnesia, through your search for identity in places it could never be found. The soul is not impatient, but it is relentless. It will not compete for your attention with the noise of the world, but it will stay. And that is love, that is truth, that is home. When you decide who you are no longer afraid of shedding. You become a master of releasing. because now you understand nothing real is ever lost. Only illusions fall away. Only masks get discarded. And with every layer you shed, with every old belief you burn at the altar of your becoming, you get lighter, freer, truer. Deciding who you are is not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming someone ancient to you that existed before the world taught you to perform, before the ego taught you to defend, before your pain taught you to doubt. The real youth of soul you is not in need of change. It is in need of liberation. And when you live like that, when you live from that place, something miraculous begins to occur. You stop needing others to mirror your worth. You stop auditioning for love you were already born from. You stop compromising with mediocrity, not out of arrogance, but because truth has become your new standard. And truth, my friend, is not always comfortable, but it is always healing, it is always freeing, it is always aligning you with the life you came here to live. Not a life of mere survival, but a life of significance, a life of depth, a life where peace is not occasional, it is your constant companion. A life where you stop trying to get ahead and start walking in step with the rhythm of your soul. That rhythm may not match the tempo of society. That rhythm may look like stillness in a world that worships speed. That rhythm may require you to say no to things others call success, to say yes to things that don't make sense to their logic, but make perfect sense to your spirit. Because when you live from your decision, your divine decision, your life becomes a declaration. Not a declaration of defiance, but of alignment. Not rebellion, but remembrance. Not force, but flow. And you will begin to notice you speak differently. You walk into a room and no longer seek to be chosen. You choose yourself silently, fully. You sit across from others and listen, not to respond, but to understand, because you are no longer protecting a false self that needs to prove anything. You create not to impress, but to express, because your joy is no longer conditional on being received. It is self-generating. It is sacred. It is enough. And if you fall out of alignment, as we all do, you will not shame yourself. You will return gently, bravely, without drama, because you know now that coming home to yourself is not a one-time event. It is a daily devotion. You make that decision again, every morning, with every breath. Today, I decide who I am. Today, I walk like it. Today, I speak like it. Today, I rest like it. Today, I love like it. And when the old voices rise, the ones that say, you are not enough, not ready, not deserving, you will not argue with them, you will not battle them. You will simply turn your gaze inward, breathe, and return to the knowing. Because once you've made the decision, you don't need to convince anyone else. You only need to live it. Let your life be the evidence. Let your peace be the proof. Let your presence be the sermon. Let your alignment be the miracle that speaks louder than your words ever could. Because when you decide who you are and live like it, you become unshakable or not, because life becomes easy, but because you become rooted, anchored, centered in a self that is no longer defined by the external. You become the calm in the chaos, the light in the fog, the truth in the noise. And that truth, your truth, is what the world needs. Not a version of you polished for approval. Not a diluted self painted for performance. But the raw, radiant, real you. The one that chose to remember. The one that chose to return. The one that chose to decide who they are and to live like it. So now, the question is no longer who are you trying to become. The question is, who have you already decided to be? And what would it look like if you finally, truly, courageously, unapologetically lived like it? And as the sun knows no shame in shining, may you know no shame in becoming. Let the decision settle in your bones, not just as a moment, but as a movement within your being. Because deciding who you are is not about one single thunderous revelation. It is about learning to choose yourself over and over, even when it's quiet, especially when it's quiet, when no one is watching, when nothing grand is happening, when the world has turned its gaze elsewhere, In those unseen moments, when you could shrink or delay or distract you, rise instead. Not for them, for you. Because you finally understand that authenticity is not about performance, it's about presence. It's about integrity. It's about being one with your truth. Even when your voice shakes, even when the past echoes, even when the old self claws at the door, asking for one more day of your time. But you don't give it, because you have decided. You've decided to live like love is not something to chase, it's what you are. You've decided to walk like forgiveness isn't weakness, it's liberation. You've decided to create like your existence is already a masterpiece. And when you do this, you become a lighthouse not by trying to fix others, but by becoming unignorable in your radiance. You don't need to tell people what you're becoming, your energy tells them. Your presence tells them, your peace tells them. You become an example, not by being perfect, but by being whole. You see, wholeness does not come from achievement. It comes from alignment. It comes from the radical honesty of saying, this is who I am now, and allowing that to evolve, deepen, and mature without shame. Because the truth is, the real you isn't static. The real you is ever becoming, ever unfolding, ever blooming into greater expressions of love, wisdom, and peace. And that becoming it begins the moment you decide, because in that decision, you stop living from memory and start living from imagination. You stop rehearsing the past and begin sculpting the now. You stop telling the same old stories of pain, rejection, and limitation, and you start speaking new life into your reality. I am whole. I am powerful. I am divine. I am home. And when you say those words, not just with your mouth, but with your spirit, the world responds, the universe leans in, it says, they remember. And in that remembrance, doors open. Paths clear, people align, not because they were waiting, but because you were. And now that you've arrived, the unfolding begins. You see, your decision to live in truth is not just for you. It's for everyone your light will ever touch. Every stranger who crosses your path, every child who watches your example, every soul silently praying for permission to be real. Your authenticity gives others courage to be authentic. Your wholeness gives others permission to heal. Your peace ripples outward in ways you will never fully see, but the impact is real. So don't delay. Don't wait until the pain forces you. Don't wait until the fear fades. Don't wait until the world claps for you. The applause will never be loud enough to quiet your soul if you haven't yet made peace with yourself. Choose peace now. Choose you now. And live like the decision has already been made. Because the truth is, you decided who you are long before this moment. You decided in the silence between breaths. You decided in the ache that would no longer let you lie. You decided in the tears that fell without explanation. You decided in that moment, you said, enough. Enough hiding. Enough shrinking. Enough waiting. And now you're not just ready, you're aligned. So live like it. Speak like it. Walk like it. Create like it. Breathe like it. Because your life is no longer a performance. It is a prayer. And your soul is no longer asleep. It is awake. Fully, radiantly, irreversibly awake. And now, nothing can ever be the same again. Because once you decide who you are and live like it, you become unstoppable. Not because the path is easy, but because you remembered that you are the path and there is no going back. Only forward, only freedom, only truth. Only now, you are home. Live like it. There's something holy about a life that no longer seeks escape, a life that no longer fantasizes about someday or waits for a better version of itself to begin, a life that opens its eyes to the miracle of this moment, this breath, this know, and says, I'm no longer at war with myself. There is no longer a version of me I am running from or toward. There is only this presence, and in this presence, I am already complete. That's when the real transformation begins. When The decision to live like yourselfully, unapologetically, and joyfully as no longer an idea, but a devotion. A sacred practice of remembering not once, but moment by moment. You wake up, and before the world claims your attention, you place your hand on your heart and whisper, "Today, I walk with the soul at the front." And your day no longer begins with stress, but with reverence. You look at your reflection not to criticize or adjust, but to acknowledge the divine being inhabiting your body. You don't see flaws, you see symbols. Your eyes, portals, your scars, maps, your skin, a temporary home for something eternal, and something inside you softens. You stop living to fix yourself. You start living to express yourself. Not because you are without wounds, but because you are no longer defined by them. Healing, after all, does not mean erasing the pain. It means walking with it gently until it no longer has authority over your identity. And this is what few are ever taught. You do not have to wait to feel perfect before living truthfully. The decision does not require perfection. It requires honesty, radical, naked, compassionate honesty. The kind that says, yes, I've been hurt, but I am not my hurt. Yes, I've made mistakes, but I am not my past. Yes, I've been lost, but I've always been whole underneath. That honesty is the gateway to grace. And grace, once it touches your life, changes the geometry of everything. Suddenly, you are no longer holding the world together with tension. You are holding yourself together with love. You are no longer walking on eggshells through life. You are dancing barefoot on sacred ground. You are no longer censoring your spirit for the comfort of others. You are channeling your truth like water flowing from a higher mountain. That is what it means to live like you've decided who you are. It means the masks fall off, not because you've grown tired, but because you've grown true. It means the silence inside you becomes louder than the noise around you. It means you stop bargaining with your purpose, and instead, finally, you embody it. You become the message, not the messenger trying to convince, but the living, breathing embodiment of what it means to be free. And when others see you, when they feel you, they may not know what has changed, but something in their soul will stir. Something in them will say, this is what it looks like when someone remembers. Because that's what you've done, haven't you? You've remembered. You've remembered that peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of clarity. You've remembered that joy isn't the result of outcomes, it's the natural expression of alignment. You've remembered that power isn't dominance over others, it's presence within yourself. And now, with this remembering, you move differently. You don't rush. You don't strive. You walk with the knowing that everything that is yours is moving towards you because you have finally aligned your being with your becoming. This is not Magichette's law. This is not hope, it's vibration. This is not ambition, it's surrender. Because when you surrender to the truth of who you are, your entire life becomes a ripple of liberation. You liberate your mind from old programming. You liberate your emotions from stagnation. You liberate your nervous system from the chronic grip of survival. You exhale the end in that breath, your soul takes the lead. So take another breath now, not as a routine, but as a revolution. Breathe in the knowing, I am already what I was searching for. Breathe out the lie, I am not enough. Breathe in the truth. My being is my becoming. Breathe out the performance. I have nothing to prove. And in this moment, feel what has always been here. Stillness, warmth, knowing, the gentle but undeniable hum of existence saying, you are on time, you are seen, you are not late, you are life expressing itself in one perfect unfolding form. Let that be enough. Let that be more than enough. Because when you truly decide who you are and live like it, you don't just change your life, you change your relationship with life itself. You no longer experience yourself as separate from the world. You realize you are the world, waking up to itself. The river is not apart from the ocean, it is simply on its way home. And so are you. This is what you were born for. To wake up in the middle of the storm and say, I am not the wind, I am the sky. To rise from the ashes and whisper, I was never the fire, I was the flame behind it. To walk through the world, not to escape it, but to illuminate it. And now, in this very breath, the liberation has already begun. Not because anything outside has changed, but because you have, and that is where all transformation begins. From within.